Whether you're making the same breakfast that you have every day or baking a cake for an extra special day, eggs are a staple in our diets. Eggland's Best eggs are nutritionally superior to ordinary eggs, containing more vitamins and 25% less saturated fat. Not only are they better for you, but Eggland's Best eggs taste better too. There's a reason that they're America's #1 eggs. Visit egglandsbest.com for additional information and delicious recipes.
Welcome to the CJ Moneyway Show podcast, the podcast show where we unlock potential one dream at a time. Today, we have another guest whose journey is truly worth hearing. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the Moneyway experience.
What's up, my good people? Welcome to the CJ Moneyway Show, the podcast that brings you stories behind the success. Today, we have on the show Cassandra Crawley Mayo, bestselling author, speaker, and empowering women mentor. Hey, how you doing today, Cassandra?
I am doing great, and thanks so much for having me on your show.
Thank you for coming on. Thank you for taking time out your day to come on. We've had a very, very healthy conversation before.
Yes, we did. We sure did.
Enjoyed that. And so Cassandra, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and about your background?
Absolutely. I actually grew up in a small town. The population during that time was 159,000 people. So you know that was small. I am an only child. My grandfather's a minister. My dad was a mailman, and my mom was a school teacher. And I would say that my parents were pretty strict. But now that I'm older, I get it. I understand. They provided me values. You know, we had to go to church. You had to say thank you. If somebody gave you something, you have to particularly go to their home, whoever gave you the gift, and thank them. Also, during that time, we started integration in the 70s had started. Because at first we were all segregated. And because my mom was a school teacher, and obviously she was a pretty good teacher because they asked her to go to a far away, probably over an hour from my house to teach. And she was the only African-American teacher in that school from 1st through 6th grade. And she told me that I was going to school with her because she did not want me to be home by myself when I came home from school. So I was voluntold, not volunteer. And my mom knew best. So during that time, that happened. And that was a rude awakening for me to be the only Black kid in the entire school. It was amazing to me. Now, the janitor was Black. My mom was Black. So I felt I was safe because my mom was there. So if anything were to happen, then I could run to her classroom. But so, you know, and I also, after I did that, I was an individual that wanted to live independently. I guess because I was an only child, I'm like, I want to get away. I want to start living on my own. So in the event that I go to college, my dream and my goal was when I left college, I was not coming back. I would visit, but I wanted my own thing. And what's so interesting during my childhood, you know how a lot of kids have dreams and they want to do this, they want to be that. And one of the things I noticed, because I was around individuals that were teachers, nursing, worked in the shipyard, and the military. So those were the things that I thought, well, maybe I could be a teacher. I don't really want to work in the post office. And so I took that behavior, that attitude with me to college. When I went to college, I had no idea what I wanted to do. And I felt bad about it because all my other friends, they knew what they wanted to do, but I didn't. So I just said, you know what? I'm just going to go, and I trust that God's going to give me this direction to tell me to do this, do that. So I just say that to say, I never knew in the beginning, when you go away to school, you go to college, people know what they want to do. And I was one person that had no clue what I wanted to do.
Well, I tell you what, just looking at your resume, you may not know what you want to do, but you figured it out. Now, I can tell you from my experience, I went, didn't know what I wanted to do before I got there, and still didn't know what I wanted to do. Back in the day. That's the difference. But what's the difference between me and you? Cassandra. So, speaking about what you didn't want to do when you went to college, you have a pretty impressive career as VP of a Global 500 company where you were the first and only African American in that space.
That's
What was
right.
that experience like, and how did it shape your journey?
Well, once I graduated from college, I was in an era where companies were looking for African Americans. They had a quota to meet. So that was the era that we were in. So I started working for different companies, and I started out working for Chrysler Credit Corporation. And I was the only Black person there as well. But this was the kicker. Once I accepted the role, I had to relocate. Now, that's something that I didn't think I would be doing. I was saying I'm going to be independent and I'm not going to go back home, but I didn't think that I was going to move from one state to another. I relocated to Birmingham, Alabama. And boy, did I have a rude awakening when I arrived there. And I remember when the plane landed, and that was during the time with the kids I know about the kids got bombing, Martin Luther King. And I remember that, and I was like, oh, this is going to be interesting. And so when the plane landed, I looked out the window and I was like, I don't know what this experience is going to be like, but I know that I will be taken care of. And so that experience there was very interesting because in that particular space, I was treated nicely. And I also was in a position where I repossessed cars. I was working for the Chrysler Credit. And so the people in the office knew that it probably wouldn't be a real good idea if I went out there on my own and repossessed the car in Birmingham, Alabama. So anyway, I had that under my belt. So one of the guys would go with me. And so that was really interesting. And what I did notice, though, is I was looked at differently. I was treated differently depending on where I went. If I went to shop, it was just different. I was treated differently. And it was unsettling, but because I was so young and naive, it didn't really bother me. And I just went on with my life. And fortunately, I got laid off. The car business wasn't doing well and I got laid off. And then, so my career transitioned to this and transitioned to that. So that was my second experience. My first was in elementary school with my mom. But the first one was, I always said, welcome to the real world. I was actually in the real world, but on my own.
Yeah. Experience I like to always remember, your first step of your journey. And speaking of your journey, Cassandra, after experiencing such a successful career, what were some of the side effects or challenges that came with your success?
The challenges were, as I moved up into different organizations, it was just like I remember being in the hotel business. And I was the first African American general manager for Courtyard by Marriott. And if anything went wrong, either people were going to call Mr. Marriott or they wanted to see the general manager. Whenever I would walk out as the GM, they would look at me like something was wrong with me. And so I was treated like something was wrong with me. And I've had individuals say, no wonder this place isn't running well, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is just so crazy, but what I would say the challenges or opportunities is I was a trailblazer. And I'm not saying that to impress anybody. I'm just saying that to impress upon individuals that I was glad that I was used for the sake of that word to help others, to show them that I'm qualified. I didn't get the job because I was Black. Maybe I did, but then they found out, wow, she's qualified. Because I remember when I was hired on another job, the human resources manager called, offered me the job. I agreed after we talked about salary and all of that. And the first thing he said is, oh my God, I met my quota. I was like, But that was still a time where I was naive. And if I weren't not that naive, I probably would not have performed like I had performed. I did a really, really great job. And it just made the way for others to come on after me.
I'm listening to you as you were speaking, and I'm going back to what you said when you were a child and how you thought that your parents was mean, but now that you realize what they were doing, it was discipline, things that you would have had to know and learn. When you get older, they were taking you to church and things of that nature, which is building a solid foundation in the Word. But to endure the things that you endured as far as we would call it, racism, and people looking at you funny, and people saying that as we looking at the vice president now, as they're saying about her being a DEI hire and things of that nature. And so as I'm listening to you, that's something that you say, like maybe they did hire me because I was black, but then they realized that I was more than qualified to do the job. And so to endure that at such an early age and still have afforded to move forward is a testament to your character and to your integrity in itself. And I just wanted to put that out.
Yeah, thank you. And one other thing that I failed to mention is that when I was growing up, my grandfather was a Baptist preacher. So my dad was a preacher's kid. So I say that to say that I grew up in the church, going to Sunday school and all of that. But as trouble came and my struggles and challenges with that, I started having a relationship with God. And that helped me so much. It is just unbelievable how it has gotten me through so many things. And I know I was being protected, but I also said I had favor with God, because I remember my mom saying, I'm not going to worry about you anymore. I'm turning you over to God. And I'm like, okay, all right. So that in itself just got me closer to God because of the trials and tribulations that I went through.
I can agree with you. I can testify to that myself. It's not, you can have people praying for you, but as we know, they used to say back in the day, when every knee shall bow and every tongue shall confess, that means that, you will be judged by your own accord. Back in the day, they say, mama can't get you to heaven, daddy can't get you to heaven, grandmama can't get you to heaven, granddaddy can't get you to heaven. It's what you do. And it's that personal, and that key word right there, that personal relationship that you have to, that personal, intimate relationship that you have to have with God yourself.
That's right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Now the prayers, they get us through. The prayers that, through trying times, the prayers from our mother, the prayers from our fathers, grandmother, they get us through some challenges that we didn't, at the time we didn't know, because as I just heard somebody say not too long ago, that prayer still works. That
absolutely.
Answering prayers from those that have passed away a long time ago, because that was his promise. And God is not a man that shall lie. But so some of his blessings that prayers that is still being answered to this day for us, and watching over us, but it still comes a time where you have to learn for yourself.
Exactly. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that scripture that I like also is bring up a child the way they should go and they won't depart. And that is so, so true, because when things were tough, that's where I ran back to is God. Yeah.
He draws us back. As you say, train up a child where they should go when they get older, they won't depart from it. Okay, I was raised up like this. I'm speaking for myself. Raised up like this, raised in church, I'm taking church. I got to a point that I didn't go. When I got to a certain age, I was making my own decision, Cassandra. I didn't go. And so then I opened myself up to the fiery darts, that enemy, because I didn't understand. I didn't know the Bible back then. I didn't know that you had to preach to yourself and put on a breastplate of righteousness and things like that. So, Cassandra, I sat out there and got my butt towed up for a long
time. That's right.
Okay. But God is good, and he brought me back into the fold, and I don't plan on leaving. So, Cassandra, so you have a goal to partner with 25 organizations and 100 professional women to help women live their best lives. Can you share more about this initiative and what you hope to achieve from it?
Well, that goal has changed. I am now on a mission. And my mission is to empower a generation of young women to pivot away from their roadblocks that's preventing them from living their best life on those terms. That in itself, when I think about my life and what I've been through, I know for a fact that we all have self-imposed barriers. I also know that we're all here for a reason. We're ordained to be here for something. And a lot of people really fixated on what's my purpose? Everybody wants to know. And I was there too, what my purpose was. And whatever was going on at that time was my purpose. So the purpose can change. So my thing is, I know that the gifts that God has given individuals, they are not using them. And I'm just on this mission is whatever they want. Like there are individuals that I know that want to be an entrepreneur. They want to be an advocate for something. They want to forgive somebody. Know they need to forgive. Know they need to get closer to their family, but they're stuck. People are just stuck. They can't move here. They can't move there. And I know when you're doing something that you were called to do, not that you won't have problems. I'm not saying that, but you will feel better about your day when you get up in the morning because you're living out your purpose. So that's what's driven me, because as I indicated before, a lot of the jobs I did get was because I was an African-American female. I just grew up in that time. And I remember a guidance counselor told me when I was in college that I would probably be successful more because of the way I looked, not my intellect. And that bothered me so much. I'm like, so you all are saying I'm not smart? I'm not intelligent? I don't have... And I never understood when he really got it. And I started feeling bad. Like, I don't want to get something because I look like this. I want to get something because I can do it. I have the skill set to do it. So, so just hearing that, and I'm saying that because, like I said, I've gotten a lot of my opportunities because of the color of my skin. And voila, were they not surprised when I did get it? I excelled in it.
Whether you're making the same breakfast that you have every day or baking a cake for an extra special day, eggs are a staple in our diets. Eggland's Best Eggs are nutritionally superior to ordinary eggs, containing more vitamins and 25% less saturated fat. Not only are they better for you, but Eggland's Best Eggs taste better too. There's a reason that they're America's #1 eggs. Visit egglandsbest.com for additional information and delicious recipes.
Don't miss out on CJ Moneyway's book, Both Eyes Open and Both Eyes Shut. And get ready to pre-order his upcoming release, The Issues of Life, coming soon. Moneyway, aiming to inspire.
Fool them, huh? You know what I'm saying? Because like they say, like you said, your mother said, what they didn't know, that you had already had favor with God in a position that all you had to do was set foot on the property, because the favor of God was already with you. And that's some things too, a lot of times when people deal with certain people, I think that's why the scriptures say too, Cassandra, be careful how you entertain strangers, because they may have entertained angels unaware. And so a lot of times people might judge you based on how they see you or what they perceive of you. They really don't know. Or should I say, they really don't know who you are.
Right.
And so when you know God, and when you have the type of connection that you've had, they didn't know who they was messing with.
Right. Exactly right. Yeah.
I know that you emphasize the importance of being authentic and transparent as key elements to living your best life. Why are these qualities so crucial in your life?
Because when you're authentic, and I say this because in the different roles that I was in, I wasn't authentic. I wasn't transparent because I'm trying to fit that mold of the white people. Like I had to watch how I talked. I had to watch how I dressed. They had this black suits and white shirts and I realized that when one is more authentic and transparent, that's when you have those good conversations. And also it transforms an individual when they're like that. And there are a lot of people out there that aren't authentic. And you can tell whether they're authentic or not. A lot of them are not transparent. And you can tell that as well. So my thing is, if you are who you are, you can't pretend to be something that you're not. So I had to learn and be okay with being the person that I am and stop being concerned about what those people would think about me, because I was different. I talked different, but yet I still performed just as well as anybody else. And that's why those attributes are very important. That's when you have those rich conversations when somebody's authentic and transparent.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you. There's nothing like having an authentic, transparent conversation with somebody where you just, regardless of what you've been through or how things are, I'm being honest with you. I'm telling you the truth. This is my genuine feeling, instead of somebody sitting up there sugarcoating it.
Exactly.
So, Cassandra, tell us about your best-selling book, is In Your Way, and what inspired you to write that book?
Well, I always wanted to write a book, and what I found out is I had these barriers. For example, who would read my book? Or I'm not a great writer, or I don't want anybody to know my story. I don't want people to really get to know me. I did not want to be transparent with my story. And I can't talk about this because it's too long, but in my book, in page 5 of my book, I have a chapter in there called The Out-of-Body Experience. And that out-of-body experience triggered me and confirmed to me that it was time for me to write the book. And during that time, the title was given to me as if you would get out of your way, you will see what I can do for you. But as long as you're standing in my way, you will never reach what I have for you. So that's where the title came. And so I finally got it, wrote the book. It was just amazing to me because I wrote it because I heard this minister say, the richest place is the graveyard. I was struck by that message. I'm like, well, why is that? Why would a richest place be a graveyard? He said, because that's where so many unmet dreams are. And when he said that, I'm like, that's interesting. Unmet dreams. So I decided, no. I'm not going to leave this earth with none of my dreams not being fulfilled. Then I read an article about a lady by the name of Bonnie Ware. Bonnie Ware was a hospice nurse. She started interviewing individuals that were transitioning. And she asked them, did they have any regrets in life? She came up with 5. But the 2 regrets that got me were people said that they wish they could have been true to themselves was number 1. And number 2 was, I wish I could have been more happier. And that right there struck me again, because I'm like, why can't we be true to ourselves? Why can't we be happier? What's going on? So that's when I said, you know what? I'm going to write this book, and there's love letters. Each chapter is a love letter written to women. Dear women that have esteem battles, dear women, welcome to the real world, or dear women who have questioned whether there was a God. All these things that I know individuals have thought about, and all of these things that has happened is stopping them. They're growing from it, but a lot of it is like making them afraid, having imposter syndrome. They're having all of these things. And my thing was, if you could read my story as a young woman, I'll guarantee you will see yourself in that book. And in that book, every chapter has a scripture in the beginning. And at the end of the chapter, it talks about what God says about each thing. For example, dear women who have experienced racism and inequality, what God says about that. Dear women who have mental illness, all of those types of things. And I just felt that was something that I felt God, I knew that was something he wanted me to do. So when I did it, I'm like, okay, I'm done. And God says, no, you're not. It's not about just writing the book. You got to, when much is given, much is required. So you have to take those messages from that book and take it to the world.
Yeah, that sounds fun. Okay, before we move on to the next question, your book, where can we find it at? Your social media handle, where can we find you at?
Well, actually, you can find my book on Amazon, even on my website, CassandraCrawley.com. On my website, and all bookstores and all Barnes and Nobles, all of those types of stores, it's right there. And it's also an Audible, and it's my voice speaking, because no one could tell my story like me.
That's very intriguing. So go get the book. It's on Amazon. Is Your Way in Your Way? That's a very good title to say that it came from above. And you know when something comes from from above, because it's mind-boggling to people to make them think about the situation itself. Like, wait a minute, am I in my way? So
That's right.
I love that title, and I wish you would test on that.
Mm-hmm.
So, Cassandra, you also have you're also a podcast host with a show title that's the same as your book, Is Your Way in Your Way. Can you tell us a little bit about your podcast and what can your listeners expect?
Yeah, it's actually what I would call a self-discovery guide for women and men, but it's more women, on how to restore yourself, learn from the experiences you've had, and be your true self again. So the messages are inspiring, it's reflective, it's for personal development. There are things that, when you listen to other women, when I interview other guests, if they could do that, why can't you? Those individuals have been through things just like you, or either worse. So that gives them hope, gives them inspiration. And that's what the podcast is all about. Making sure that if you're in your way, how other people have gotten out of their way. My questions, it started out like this. If I gave you a scale from 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, and I ask you this question: how would you rate yourself living your best life on your terms at this moment? That question right there, people are puzzled. Like, I don't know, maybe a 4. Like, why aren't you living your best life? So therefore, it gives you an opportunity to think about, what does their best life look like? Because what it is possible.
Yeah, I thought you were going to ask me that question. And before you went into what the details of it, I was sitting there thinking to myself, like, like, are you living your best life? I mean, are you living to the fullness of what you can do, the fullness? Are you truly happy? There's a difference between being happy and being truly happy. Like, are you doing what you really want to do? Are you going to the places that you really want to go? Are you reaching people that you want to reach? And so I think, as I'm listening to you say that factors into, are you living your best life, or are you missing some of these elements that you want to do, but not obtaining the things that you're trying to, or the goals that you're trying to reach? And so the question, and I'm going to ponder on that with myself. So I got one more question for you before I let you go. Like I said, I appreciate you taking the time out your day today and joining the CJ Moneyway Show. And your insight and your story, your journey has been very, very intriguing to me. And so, lastly, who has been your largest inspiration throughout your journey?
My inspiration, and this is not a cliche, but it's my Lord Jesus Christ. That in itself, the word has inspired me to move forward, to know that all things work together for your good for those according to his purpose. And there is a chapter in my book where I questioned one time whether there was a God, because life was so tough. I went through, just like everybody listening, I've been through hell and I've been back from hell. And so in that chapter, he proved to me why there is a God. So he's been my inspiration. I go to him. This is another podcast of all that he's done for me. So that's who has inspired me and continues to do so.
That's just me, because I think we're both on the same thing. I don't think that is a cliche. As you were saying that, I thought about the time where in the Bible where it talks about that John the Baptist, when he was in they were going to behead him, and he said, look, he sent his disciples out. He said, look here, go back and ask Jesus, is he the one, or shall we look for another? Because he was going to go through something, and he knew he was the only other man that was born with the Spirit, because the Bible tells us, Cassandra, that when the mothers walked in the room with each other, that he leaped in Elizabeth's belly because, of the Spirit of Jesus that was there. And so a lot of times, and I say that to say, there's a lot of times we may question some things that we're totally outside. We just go through things and say, Lord, you said that you would never leave me nor forsake me. Where have you gone?
Are you for real? Right. Exactly. I've been here.
Yes, I totally get it. So like I said, I truly enjoyed you today. It's been a very awesome conversation even before we began talking. And so is there anything else that you would like to share with us before we leave? Any other endeavors that you have coming on the horizon that we look forward to?
Well, the only thing that I just want to reiterate the power of relationships. And we underestimate relationships, and they're just critical because whatever it is that your goals are, whatever you want to do, you can't do them alone. So I always talk about you want to build them deep and wide. You can't live this life by yourself. And also think about who is on your board of directors, who is in your circle that can help you. For example, I have a finance person in my circle. I have a friend who's an attorney. I have a friend that keeps it real. I have a friend that I can go to when I need some spiritual advice. So I am surrounded by individuals that can support and help me along my journey. So I just encourage people to look at the relationships that you have. And if they're not in your best interest or they're not going to be able to take you where you want to go, they may not be the right people.
You heard it from Cassandra Crawley Mayo, Empowering Women's Mentor. If you have the wrong people in your circle, you may want to do a little evaluation to see if they have to be gone. Because the hardest thing for us to do is let people go that's not doing us any good. And a lot of times, Cassandra, some of them be haters in the first place. So you have been listening to the CJ Moneyway Show with your boy CJ Moneyway and Cassandra Crawley Mayo. Go grab her book, Is Your Way in Your Way, on Amazon and all the bookstores that you can get it on. You have been listening to CJ Moneyway. We out of here. Peace.
Thank you for listening to the CJ Moneyway Show. Don't forget to share this episode with your friends, leave a comment, and drop a review. Be sure to tune in every Tuesday and Friday for more inspiring journeys. Who knows? Your story might be next.
Whether you're making the same breakfast that you have every day or baking a cake for an extra special day, eggs are a staple in our diets. Eggland's Best Eggs are nutritionally superior to ordinary eggs, containing more vitamins and 25% less saturated fat. Not only are they better for you, but Eggland's Best Eggs taste better too. There's a reason that they're America's #1 eggs. Visit egglandsbest.com for additional information and delicious recipes.